In 2015, police officer Katherine Campbell went missing in Nova Scotia, Canada while investigating. Police found several surveillance videos that led them to a 27-year-old man named Christopher Granier. It was then learned that on the evening of September 14th, Katherine wanted to go out for some fun, but things didn't go as she planned. Katherine Campbell was born in January 1979 in the Canadian province of Nova Scotia. She was the second of 3 siblings. From an early age, Katherine looked for ways to help others. Her father was a volunteer firefighter, and when she became old enough, she joined the ranks of that squad as well. After that, when Katherine thought about choosing a profession, she decided to become a police officer. The girl entered the police department in Trevor, a small town in Nova Scotia. Every day Katherine traveled about an hour from her home to the police station in the town. She was well liked because she was a woman who always took care of all residents, especially at-risk children and those with family problems. According to co-workers, Katherine's goal was for the children to trust the police and know that they were always there to help them. She was constantly busy with multiple cases and was very attentive to everyone, and for all of this she was very much appreciated in the community. On September 14, 2015, Katherine went missing. She didn't show up for work, causing the entire town to be gripped with worry. At the time, no one knew exactly what day Katherine disappeared. It was only known that on September 14th, she was supposed to report to work after a few days off, but did not show up. Katherine was a very responsible woman. When she was late, sick, or unable to go to work for any other reason, she would call. But that day, she didn't make a single call, not to the police station or to her co-workers. Officers then tried to contact her family. Katherine did not live with her parents, and they had not seen her for several days either. They communicated once or twice a week, so they hadn't heard from their daughter this weekend either. Her co-workers also didn't talk to her on those days. But since Katherine said she had had a hard week and wanted to rest, they thought that maybe she was just sleeping. The woman was last seen alive on September 10th at 6:30 in the morning when she left her shift, and she called her parents the same day, so she is believed to have gone missing around that time. After that, police colleagues sent a patrol car to Katherine's apartment. When they entered, they found nothing unusual, no signs of a struggle, no signs that someone had broken in, and nothing important was missing. They did notice, however, that Katherine's purse, keys, phone, and all of her personal belongings were not there. But they didn't think about the fact that she might have left on her own. After they searched the apartment and found nothing, they asked for a copy of the surveillance footage. Katherine lived in a gated apartment complex where there were cameras on almost every corner, and there was a camera pointed right at her house. This camera showed Katherine leaving on the night of September 10th, around 11:30. When a cab came to pick her up, the police started looking for records of the cab and wanted to interview the man who was driving the car in which the woman was traveling. That cab driver reported that he saw her well. She was not under the influence of drugs, she was not drunk, and she was not unwell. She was very calm and happy. It became known that he took her to a local bar where she got off and he never saw her again after that. Therefore, the police focused their investigation on the location. There were no cameras outside the establishment, so the police could not determine if Katherine had entered or left the bar with anyone. They asked to review the cameras in the bar, but the owners asked for a warrant to review the cameras, which would take several days to obtain. So at that point, the police had to slow down the investigation and do paperwork to be able to serve the warrant at different locations. One day after all this, on September 15th, Katherine's body was found under a bridge in a wooden box. Her keys were found in a nearby garbage dump. The body was in a state of deep decomposition, so at first glance, people who saw it decided that she had died the same day she went missing. That is, the same day she was seen leaving the house. Forensic examination determined that the cause of death was strangulation, but there were also several bruises on Katherine's body, and a broken nose and some other bones on her face, especially under her eyes. It was therefore assumed that she had been badly beaten. Nothing else could be determined due to the state of decomposition of the body. A toxicology examination was also conducted, but it was inconclusive. The medical examiner determined the day of death to be between September 11th and September 12th. At the time the body was found, the police were able to make much more progress in getting warrants and all the necessary paperwork, but it wasn't really necessary. A few hours after Katherine's body was found, they stopped a man driving toward the bridge. The police officers asked him what he was doing and the man became very nervous. So the police officers decided to take him out of the car and started searching him. Many things were found in the trunk of the car: a rope, a blanket stained with blood, a backpack containing the man's clothes, and his passport. In addition, a gallon of gasoline and a lighter were found. The man was identified as 27-year-old Christopher Granier. What shocked police the most was the gallon of gasoline and the lighter. Christopher was driving directly in the direction where Catherine's body was found, which was odd since it was not a very good road that few people used. Thus, the police believe that the person who took Catherine's life was in front of their eyes, and also that he was driving to that place to burn the body and leave no evidence. Christopher Granier was a civil servant at the time. He didn't have much of a record. He had never been in a fight, led a quiet life, and had a good upbringing. So he didn't exactly fit the profile they were looking for, or usually do. But the officers took him to the police station anyway to talk to him. At the station, Christopher decided not to talk to the police, but thanks to some rather strange things being found in his car, they got a search warrant for his apartment. The man was living with his girlfriend at the time, but according to some friends, from September 9th to September 11th he was staying with a friend, whose name is not disclosed, but in order not to further confuse, we will call him Liam. So the police immediately went to Liam's home. He told them that on September 10th, Christopher went to a bar and he went to a completely different establishment. Liam added that he didn't come home that night, but only the next day. Upon entering his apartment, he found that his blanket was not on the bed. When he was shown the blanket found in Christopher's car, he immediately identified it as his. According to Liam, Christopher told him that he threw up on that blanket and that's why he threw it away, but it was obvious that was a lie because the blanket was completely covered in blood. The man also said that Christopher returned the next day with his girlfriend and they never spoke again after that. Liam then gave the police permission to search the apartment and bloodstains were found in the living room of the apartment and on the pillow Christopher was sleeping on, samples of which were immediately collected and sent to a laboratory. There, experts confirmed that the blood belonged to Katherine Campbell. Then, strange search queries were found in the man's computer, which also caused concern to the police. Christopher was looking for information about memory loss from alcohol and memory loss from taking antidepressants. It is worth noting that Christopher was prescribed antidepressants about 2 years ago. So the police assumed that he intended to say that he had forgotten what he had done and that he had killed Katherine without knowing it. And that's exactly what he said after reviewing all the evidence the police had. Christopher stated that he had indeed taken Katherine's life, but that he didn't remember anything. The last thing he remembered was being with her at the bar. He was then at the place where the woman's body lay, and it was there that he came up with the plan to burn it. Christopher said he waited a few days because he didn't want there to be any witnesses. Maybe someone saw him or saw the body there. And he also added that he doesn't know how he moved it there. The cops started checking many cameras, including the one outside Christopher's friend's apartment. And, in addition, they finally got a warrant to check the cameras in the bar. Footage from the bar video shows Katherine and Christopher starting to talk and then kissing. It is believed that the man, since he had broken up with his girlfriend at the time and was looking for a girl for the night, upon seeing Katherine, the two immediately hit it off well. It is known that they left the bar around 3 o'clock, took a cab and then arrived at the friend's apartment, which was about 15 minutes away. To see further on the footage would be the most shocking of all. The camera captured Christopher with the trash can about 2 hours after he entered the friend's apartment. The man dragged it through multiple streets. Officers checked several cameras that were located on different streets and it was seen that Christopher arrived at the location where Katherine's body was found with this wheeled container dragging behind him. Several people said they had seen Christopher that morning with the dumpster, and he looked completely unconcerned. They greeted him, but he didn't say anything back. Thus, the police were now certain that Christopher Granier had killed Katherine Campbell in the apartment, put her body in the dumpster, and taken her away. It was because of this recording that they were eventually able to build a pretty convincing case against him, since they didn't have a confession. The only thing Christopher provided as part of the confession was a letter in which he said he felt very bad and apologized for what he had done. But he did not specify exactly what he had done or why he was apologizing. After all this, the man was sent to jail, but the judge set bail at $100,000, which he posted, and he was taken home with an electronic device on his leg that tracked his movements. A few days after Christopher was taken home, he was sent back to jail because he tried to escape, resulting in the man sitting behind bars for 2 years awaiting trial. The trial took place in November 2017. The prosecution presented all the available evidence, which I have already described. It was also said that the man had a fit of rage, possibly because Katherine did not want to have sexual intercourse with him, and he started choking and beating her, after which he threw her into a garbage can. For his part, Christopher's defense said that this was not true, that it was a game of intimacy that went awry, and that Katherine herself had asked Christopher to choke her a bit, but he was disproportionate, so he took her life. After that, the man didn't know what to do, so he did all of the above. Also, the defense said that he did lie under questioning, saying that he didn't remember anything, but that was because he didn't have a lawyer at the time and didn't know what to do. They also said that Katherine, with her police experience, could have defended herself against Christopher, and on top of that, they dared to say that their client was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder because of the woman's murder, and that the state should pay for psychological treatment for this man, who, among other things, should be released and sent home for individualized treatment. All this undoubtedly angered all the people present there. The defense also claimed that the police forced Christopher to write this letter of apology, which is why he didn't elaborate on why he felt bad and what he was apologizing for. But the prosecution had a trump card up its sleeve: DNA evidence. Katherine struggled with her attacker and DNA evidence was taken from under her fingernails, and it was Christopher Granier's DNA. For all that, the defense version had to fail, because if it was consensual sex and Christopher was not commensurate with his strength, it was impossible that Katherine did not wrestle him and leave the man's DNA under her fingernails. But if that was indeed the situation, then once they started fighting, he should have let her go. So the prosecution was convinced it was something else entirely, and the jury was convinced of that too. In the end, Christopher Granier was found guilty of second-degree murder and received a life sentence. After the trial, several other events occurred that led to a strong outrage throughout Nova Scotia society. The fact is that Christopher Granier's family and girlfriend supported him in his application for parole. His girlfriend wrote a letter which she read to the judge. It said that Christopher is a very good man, she is very lucky to have him by her side, and she hopes they will take all of this into consideration to release him from prison. In addition, his father, a Canadian Army veteran, had asked the Army Veterans Association to pay for his son's psychological treatment because, as I said, he suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. The judge agreed that this particular association was state-funded and only used for people who had been in combat or had experienced stress while performing their tasks in the military. But this caused a lot of controversy and irritation because Christopher Granier had never served a day in the Canadian Army, and it was felt that he did not deserve free treatment. On top of all this, the judge told Christopher that he could apply for parole after 13.5 years, which also shocked everyone. But we have to keep in mind that this doesn't mean he'll get it. If he is denied, he has to wait another 13 years to ask for it again, and he will most likely be denied because of the horrible crime he committed. However, he is still currently receiving support from his family. He continues to be visited by his girlfriend, who has stated that she wants to marry him, and obviously, this is causing a lot of resentment among people. For their part, Katherine's family wanted her legacy to live on. They held several events for at-risk children in the town where she worked, as well as many sporting events in other locations. On Katherine's behalf, her legacy continues to exist through her family. That night, Katherine Campbell went to a party to take a break from the work she was doing, but she never thought she would meet the man who would eventually become her executioner. What do you think about this story? Write your opinion in the comments and subscribe to my YouTube channel.